Good morning, good afternoon in New Jersey and here in Washington State. We have the show Siembra this morning, 9:37. I'm sorry about the late start. Here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, we have a rainy morning. That is no surprise for us because we get all this green environment, all this green forest is because of all the rain, and we're gonna have more rain I think the rest of the week. We also are gonna have a excited show today. My name is Yazmin Ford, host of the show Siembra, every Sunday morning here in VT Radio Universal from 9:30 to 11 o'clock. And then I have my co-host, Pastor Dennis, that he sits with. Normally we do this show the third Sunday of the month, but we're doing something different this year. So we have, and then we have our guests. We have two guests from the East Coast. Shout out to the East Coast in the house. And then we also have, I don't know if we have the other guests, Wonase, that he is from the Dakotas, North and South Dakota. And we're going to have an exciting show this morning. The show this morning is about, we are talking about how we heal. And I driving here, I was thinking about a verse in the Bible for us that believe, that it says, if my people will humble themselves. And then God said, is they humble themselves, then I will heal the land. And this is what we're trying to do today. This is what we're trying to tell our stories. How some of us got here involuntary. How some of us, our heritage and our culture was taken away from us. How some of us came here, our ancestors came here to make a better life for us. You know, but at the end of the day, we want the same thing. As human beings, are part of the human race, we want the same things. We want the same things, but the only way we can heal and not repeat the mistakes from the past is by telling the stories to our kids, by imparting that wisdom of our elders to our kids, so we don't make those mistakes that we made in the past, you know. And we find ourselves in a moment in this country, and not just in this country, abroad, that the stories are they want to be the word is they want to stop for our younger generation to hear the stories of the past. You know, I have my story, and everyone, and all of it is not good. You know, you cannot just remove the bad and just leave the good, because that's part of my story. You know, you put everything in there, and it's part of my story. And we find in ourselves that in this country, and like I said, abroad, a lot of countries want to remove that bad side of their stories. You cannot have healing, and you cannot feel fully embrace yourself till you tell the whole story, even if it's not a good side of you, you know. And we find ourselves with that. So I wanted to present my guests, and Pastor Dennis, I don't know if you have anything to say.
No, I'm just excited about this conversation. We've got a diversity of backgrounds here. Most of you guys know I come from a Christian heritage. My cousin is here as well, Steve, and we both come from Pentecostal history. I think his is probably a little more dicey than mine was. And he came to different conclusions when he came to the place of making his own decisions for his own views. So some would consider me questionably Christian, but I'm certainly I'm still marginally comfortable with that label. So I'll stop there.
Please don't let me kill your name, as I'm not pronouncing it good. Kurimoto, and then we have Steve Gunnarson and Wonase. I don't see him. I don't know if he's here.
He's coming. He's just having a hard time getting connected, I guess.
Okay.
Is that correct? Kai?
Okay. So and so, Kai, I just wanted you to tell me a little bit more about yourself, about your background. Tell me how did your family got here? A little bit about, and it makes this quilt. I think all of us being here makes this quilt of the United States of America. How our family make choices to make a better way for us to have a better life. So tell me a little bit about you, about your family, what part of the country you are. So go ahead.
Thank you so much, Yazmin and Dennis. My name is Kei Kurimoto, and on my mother's side, my German ancestors, we were able to trace it back, came to the United States in about the early 1700s, and they had a homestead in Pennsylvania. So that's how my mom got here. And then my father is born in Japan and is 100% Japanese. And in his early 20s, he just had a calling, yes, the opportunity of that he could come to the United States as a dishwasher and make more money than he could in his computer position in Japan. But he also just had this calling to come. And he worked tremendously hard and worked his way up from a dishwasher. And one of his quotes that he liked to say is he tried every position in the restaurant so that he could then understand how to run the restaurant, but he wasn't the best at any of them. So he worked his way up, and then he opened his own Japanese restaurant, actually the first sushi bar in New Jersey over 40 years ago, when the news literally was saying, don't eat raw fish. And he became a pioneer bringing Japanese food to the United States. And then the people that worked so hard for him, he helped them to open other restaurants, and they became partners. And it was that American opportunity that was realized over and over again. So that's an amazing story. And my parents met in a restaurant in Philadelphia, and that's how I got here and was born as a Jersey girl as I grew up in New Jersey. And there was something always that inside of me felt empty and felt disconnected. And I was baptized Episcopalian when I was younger. And my mom promised the pastor that she would take us to church, and she never did. So then she didn't baptize my brother. But that's my kind of limited experience of any type of church or religion. And so when I was older and still, had this kind of like emptiness of, I'd been so programmed of like, okay, you're supposed to work so hard to get to the good college, to get the good job, and to go into debt to buy a house. And I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. I feel like there's more. And I guess it was 2016, I was called to go out to Standing Rock in North Dakota to protect the sacred waters from being contaminated by oil. And it was an incredible movement for those of you who are not aware of it. And that is where I met Wonase. And that is where I learned how to live in reverence with the earth and in union with the earth. And also how much of the history I had been taught about our world was completely wrong. And to truly understand what colonization means, how we're disconnected from our origins, and how my ancestors have been disconnected over the years from their original indigenous roots of living in union with the earth. And I think that's such a part of how human beings are designed, is to be connected to the earth. So that's how I got where I am, and that's how I met Wonase. So thank you.
Okay.
And listening to you, and we are make three parts. We make the emotional part, mental part, then we have the physical part, and then we have the spiritual part. And you were saying how do you, for everybody is different to connect that, and to connect that spiritual part we're not aware of that spiritual part of us. We always more focus on the physical part, and now today at the mental part. I was thinking for everyone, it should be different how you want to worship. How do you want to, um, develop that spirit part of you? It should be different, and for some reason religion has made it that is has to be this way. Is this not that way, then you're not connected. You're not connected. And I think for me, I was talking to someone, I was telling them, for me today, my church is going out to walk, is sitting in front of a lake or a river. That is where I feel the presence of God. That is where I connect with the trees and the birds. That to me, it is church today. It's not just sitting in a building and yes, sitting and having this fellowship with other people. So it should be, for everyone, should be different. And I'm so happy that you find your way of connected to this that we call something bigger than us, because we are part of something bigger than us. So Steve, tell us a little bit about you. I know Pastor Dennis give us a little review of you, but tell us a little bit about you and were you, and go a little bit more about your ancestors, because the other thing we want to do is connect. I mean, it's just beautiful to see Kei, that she has these two worlds emerge from a German mom that was centuries that her family came here, and then we have her Japanese side of her dad. That is so beautiful. And then we have this Jersey girl here, or Jersey woman here, with all these different parts of her. It's just beautiful to see that we're not one thing. I'm not just fully black, or I'm not just fully this. There's so much more to us. So tell me a little bit about you, Steve.
That's thank you. Kei is my cousin through my wife. Dennis is my cousin through my dad. So I have a similar background, a similar starting point to Dennis. My family traditionally was very Christian religious when I was young. To a strong extent. The church that my parents divorced when I was young, and I would spend time with my grandparents, and the church that they went to was pretty intense, and rolling on the ground in tongues and Pentecostal. Is that what it was, Dennis?
Yes, Pentecostal.
Yes, and that was kind of a lot for me. And so I grew up in Minnesota, and through a librarian who gave me books, she gave me a lot of Indian books, and I ultimately identified with my perception of a lot of Indian culture, Native American culture. And so when Dennis and I started to talk about this, I immediately kind of went to Kei, because I had a little bit of an idea that she was connected to Standing Rock and through a lot of the things that she's participated in. So I got in touch with Kei, and she knew exactly where to go, and that was great. So that gets me here.
So you Pentecostal, But that day, the day that we sit down and talk, all four of us was shocking. Pastor Dennis was telling me a little bit about your background, your ancestors, your parents came from, what part of the world? Because we have such a beautiful quilt here in the United States of different people that come from different parts, and it is for the same difference. So do you want to tell me a little bit more? I know Pastor Dennis.
I'm all Norwegian and Swedish. I did the DNA background, and 98% Norwegian and Swedish.
Wow.
And then a little bit of Finnish. I think 2% Finnish or something. All from immigrants that settled in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and actually there's a North Dakota somewhere in there, because I believe Dennis's dad was born in North Dakota. So Dennis and I have actually never met face to face. Well, actually we did, because there's that picture of us with our grandfather that I've seen this picture, but it was from when I was probably 5.
Wow.
We were both about 5 years old.
Yeah, exactly. But we have technically met, but I can't specifically remember it. But it's so my background is Norwegian and Swedish. Something that I would like to dig deeper into and find out more about, but I haven't to date.
Can I intercept here for a minute? If Chris is there, we think that Wonase is in the back and backstage, needs to be allowed in.
Yep.
Pastor Dennis, I try, but it says that the camera and microphone needs to have permission in order for me to add it to the stream. So there's someone that is. Yeah, I think it has to do with the browser they use. If they use Chrome, on the top there is a part where you allow the microphone and camera to be used by the browser. So StreamYard can get access to it, and then I can add it to the stream. Yeah, I'm checking on that, but unfortunately, they have to do that. Yeah.
Thank you. We were just trying to work on that while Steve was talking. Go ahead and finish your story, Steve.
There was a click that I needed to make to get in, related to enable the camera and the microphone. Was a click that I needed to make to get in.
So tell us a little bit about you growing up as a Christian and your experience as because we're talking about telling our story, and we're talking also about
it again. Oh, there you are.
As a white male in this country, and looking at what's going on in this country today, and how the church has done. What is the influence of the church when it comes to you looking at what's going on right now in this country, when it comes to the history of the country and the side that we are trying to keep people and the younger people to learn about?
For me, I struggled as a teenager. I struggled to try to figure out how I fit in and what it meant to me. But I kind of came away with the idea that there were similarities between all religions. There were three similarities between all religions to me. One is how you treat other people. The other is how you treat yourself. And the third is the belief of something superior. And so taking that away, and I I likened that, or I like the idea of oneness, that we were part of, everything was part of one. And Sonny can speak to this far greater than I can. But that's what I identified with Native American culture, was the idea that we were part of the earth. That everything was part of one, and that's kind of where I ended up.
One of the things that we are not that different from each other. That's one of the things that we are not. Wonase, good morning. Well, good afternoon. Here is still morning. How are you doing this morning? And which part of the Dakotas are you? Because I know you said north or south.
Oh, here, Nakshe. Good morning to everybody. Dayan Wachiank, very good to see you. We're in what is now called North Dakota.
North Dakota. Yes.
And,
Good morning. Tell us a little bit about you. I know Friday we was talking, and you are. I don't know. You are part. Are you from the Lakota tribe? And just and this the show. When I started the show, I was saying that some of us was brought here in this country or in this continent, not continent, but in this continent we didn't have choice, by force. Some of us ancestors they came here to make a better life for their family, and that was by choice. And then we have the people that originally was here that also the almost non-existent, or when I think of the indigenous, the native here, and not just here abroad too, that has been almost not in the front for it when it comes to politics, when it comes to education. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about you being part of the people that was here,
what's there? I'm Wonase. It means they chase the buffalo. I am a full-blood Lakota, and come from the original people of this continent after the cleansing of the earth, because we've been through 2 or 3 cleansings, and our histories don't talk about that. So when the people that were on here before, our people were rooted here, but we also and we can go from this existence here on this continent and in this lifetime, but we can go further back into a universal existence, which is going to be like crazy. It's going to make people's minds spin, because we have been universal travelers, all of us. We're all tribal people. We're all native people, and we all have a native root somewhere. And it just came here to this continent. And I like to think that this continent is my continent because my name is in this continent. At one time, our people's history, at one time this continent was known to us as Makoche o Wonase Tanka, which means the land of the big hunt. So our people were influenced by the buffalo, our territory, the Lakota Oyate, the Pate Oyate, the buffalo people's territory on this continent ranges from Alaska all the way down through North America, what's now presently called North America, coast to coast, Pacific Ocean to Atlantic Ocean, and down into Central America. So the United States government, when it became the United States became a nation, they said, well, we're gonna give the land back to the native people where the buffalo roam. That's where we're gonna put the native people. So when they did their study and their survey of where the buffalo roamed, they found out it was from Alaska to Central America, ocean to ocean. And they said, oh no, we can't give that land back to the native people. That's too much. Then we won't exist, because we will not have a land base. So they systematically decided that they're going to kill all the buffalo. So they killed thousands and thousands of buffalo to do away with our food source, our clothing source, our homes. Our homes were built of the buffalo hide, and they systematically sent hunters out on the railroad systems to kill the buffalo. And they only took the tongue because that was a delicacy. And then they took the hide because they needed it for their clothing and their manufacturing, and they left the meat. And we weren't allowed to go and harvest the meat that they were just killed. So we have all these things that have happened to our people when we lived here and our life was fairly good here. We had people that lived coast to coast, Alaska to Central America and into South America. Those are our relatives also. And we have to somehow, like what they say, just accept it. Just accept what happened. So researching our history and our existence on this continent it's difficult. It's very difficult to just accept. And we're supposed to forgive. And I don't think even in our language we have a word for forgiveness, because we didn't have to live that way before people came to this continent and changed our way of life. We were thoughtful people about how we live with one another on this continent at one time. Our whole concept of war and battle wasn't to destroy and to kill. It was to solve the issue that was at hand. If there was a disagreement of this group of people over, say what is now Minnesota or over the east, and they had a disagreement with us, so we had to resolve that. So we had council. We gathered together and we talked about it, and it wasn't about going over there and destroying them because they upset or had a disagreement with us. How do we resolve these issues so that we can live on this continent? How do we live on this continent in peace with one another? We want to live. We want to live. We don't want to die. We don't want to create war. We don't want to assassinate you. We want you to live. We want you to show us the very best of you. So I don't know. It's like now that it is what it is, our people are having to discover, and we're uncovering a lot of our own histories that are coming out now. And Ms. Sue just sent me a link about how scientists are now realizing that the native people of this continent made a journey all the way around the world, around the earth, and came back to this continent. They're just now researching that and trying to accept that and wrap their head around that, because they said, well, no, how the story goes, that all of civilization started in Africa and then it went out into the world, went out. And that's very kind of closed-minded. That's just one perspective. But when we were given life here, and after the cleansing that happened, that took all the bad people and the bad influence and all of that, Earth Mother, Unchimaka, Grandmother Earth, she cleansed herself of all these bad people. But she also saved, or she also protected the very good people, the balanced, harmonious, the well-minded, if you're healed emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, then you're going to be in harmony with all living things universally and beyond universally and here on earth. So that cleansing happened, and so after that cleansing, and she was able to renew herself and her life, she renewed her life. Then she brought our people back out. She took us down to what is now called the Pahasapa, the Hesapa, the Black Hills of what is now called South Dakota, the Black Hills. It's a tourist place now. But that was our home. That was our place to live. Wizipan is a place where everything is that we need to live. And that's why it's so sacred to us. That's why it's so meaningful to us. And that's why the corporate world wants it so bad. And they're still trying to take. So, but anyway, so certain people were taken to the Black Hills, to what is Washunia, the hole that breathes, what is now called Wind Cave. It's a tourist attraction. Check it out.
Mount Rushmore, what was now called Mount Rushmore, that used to be a sacred mountain.
Yes.
Before they carved it up and desecrated it.
Yeah, and the same thing they're doing now with Crazy Horse Monument. We don't need to have Crazy Horse, blasted onto our hill, destroying our sacred mountain. If you look at that particular hill that they're building Crazy Horse on, and if you just spent some time and sat on a rock next to a tree and looked up at that mountain, you would see the outline of Crazy Horse, or a warrior figure on a horse. You could see it and imagine it without having it being carved. And it's just exploitation for money, control again. And it's hard for us to sometimes accept this. It's very hard. I went there one time with some Japanese people that came, they wanted to go to Medicine Wheel over in Montana, and we were willing to take them, but this older man said, no, we're only going to take them over to Crazy Horse. So that's as far as we got with them, but they wanted to go experience the spirituality of our existence, and how do we connect our Japanese people to your spirituality? How are we alike? And so we were going to take them on a journey to the Medicine Wheel over in in Montana, but this older man said, no, we're only going to go as far as Crazy Horse. So we went there, and then the people at the gift shop and the restaurant, they said, oh, they're going to have a blast now. So we went out on the patio and we looked up at this mountain, and you could, you see this explosion and this dust coming out of this carving. And it takes a while for the sound to come and to where the people are, that sound travels. And finally you hear the boom. And that boom, when it boomed, it just I got shot in the heart. It hurt me. And I reeled back from it. And the Japanese people said, well, what, are you okay? And I said, no, I'm not. Blasting that mountain and tearing that mountain apart, it hurt my heart. It's killing me. And they said, well, what we can't do anything about it. We're just going to have to accept it. And, we are just going to have to try to heal ourselves. That hurt, because we are rooted here. We're connected to this continent like no other. Duenishnin, like no other. All the people came here. They were connected to the lands that they were originally given life, and they should have taken care of those lands, resolve the issues in those lands so that they could live. And then we could come and visit each other and help each other, learn about each other without taking and destroying. Why is the focus of the world on us, taking us? And we have no say. We have no say in this country about what's going on. We can tell the world what's going on, but our own government, not our government, not the Lakota Oyate's government, but the government of the United States of America doesn't allow us to bring issue to their chambers. You know, they signed a treaty with us, so they recognized us as a nation, the Great Sioux Nation. They said, the United States of America as a nation said that we are a nation. The Fort Laramie Treaty. Mm-hmm. But we are not allowed, we don't get to go to the White House and have a conference with the president. So Saudi Arabia sends their prince over, and he has audience with, because they're in a business contract with the, United States and and Saudi Arabia, which really is Saudi America. They are in a contract with each other financially over the oil.
Yes.
Our oil doesn't stay here in America and is used by the United States citizens. It's sent over to the OPEC nations to be put on the market. Yeah. And so we can't, it's really difficult. So
what I'm picking up from you is that the United States uses the term sovereign nation for the Indians, but gives them none of the rights of a sovereign nation. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, we do have the rights of a sovereign nation, because if you look at the word sovereign, solver is over, okay. To reign, sovereign. It comes from two words from a language not ours. Okay. Solver is over, reign, to rule.
But so do you have like diplomats to the U.S. government like other countries do?
No. Well, they're not recognized. They're not accepted by the government. We can send in people to Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. and say, oh, so-and-so represents us. So our tribal chairwoman, she went to Washington, D.C. to talk about issues that are occurring on our reservation. Mm-hmm. But she wasn't allowed audience with the president, a direct visit with the president. She had to go through the secretary of Halen. Yeah. So we get to talk to the minor people, the smaller people on the ladder, the lower people on the ladder. We don't get to talk to the directly. But when they want something from us, they send their president to us. They sent President Obama to the Standing Rock Reservation years before the DAPL oil pipeline went in. So our first question was, why is he here? What are they going to take from us? Mm-hmm. The United States doesn't send their presidents into our territories just to say, hello, hi, I'm your friend, and we want to do something good for you. No, they send their president here and say, hey, we're going to want to, check on our relationship with you, but we're going to put an oil pipeline and we're going to destroy your water, and we're going to, kind of take your resources from you. And but we're your friend. We're here. We're here. We're showing up. And so my first question was, why is Obama here? Mm-hmm. Well, he needed to come and see what the energy was of our people. Mm-hmm. And he's invested, because the oil pipeline goes from the Bakken, comes through Standing Rock, through our territory, through our treaty territory. And then it goes to Patoka, Illinois. That's his home state. So he's invested in it, and Biden the same way, because Biden was his right-hand man. So they're all invested in it. So they weren't going to put a stop to it. We were sending letters and everything to the president of the United States. Send to the president. They'll stop it. But no, he wouldn't stop it because they're invested in it. Why would you stop your own business, your financial income? And Biden, he shut down KXL, Keystone, because that was a dead deal anyway. It was so many years, so he was able to shut that down. He wrote off on that, but he didn't shut down DAPL because of his investment. They're not directly. You're not going to pull up and say, "Oh yeah, Biden's got this many shares, Obama has this many shares." But they create a subsidiary, so they invest in that way. So their name isn't put into it,
So does it feel more like the native community is a territory like Puerto Rico, or more like a prison?
We are a POW camp. Our POW camp is 302 Standing Rock. Cheyenne River POW camp has a different number. Pine Ridge, Rosebud, Lower Brule, Crow Creek, all these reservations, these small little areas that the native people are put on. And the majority of them are along the river where there's no trees. So they took us out of the Black Hills because they didn't want us to hide in the trees and in the hills so they can't see us. So they put us out on these open, barren, desolate areas. That's all part of a plan. So they can see us easily. Why are they burning up the West in America? Because they don't want the people migrating to the West and setting up camp in the West, and their things up in the air aren't able to detect them, because it's hard for the satellites to penetrate the fauna, the leaf. And so they're burning up the forests over in the West. It's not about, it happened naturally. This thunderstorm went in there, the lightning strikes started all these fires. How do you start 15 fires when there's no thunderstorms there at all? But it's a way of controlling. So when it's what one of the things I do know is that it's waking up our spiritual awareness of ourselves, and it's helping us to come back to ourselves and saying, we have to let go of the things that we were taught by this nation, this United States of America, who controls the education system. So from childhood, first grade, you're taught that this is the land of the free. Well, there's no freedom in this country. There never has been. From the time you're born, you're told when you have to go to school. You're told how to live your life. It's just this falseness about this nation. But the thing is, this falseness, the spirit of intent of these people creating this false existence, that spirit of intent is going to go full circle and come back. And so these people and the people and their ancestors, their descendants, some of them are going to suffer the consequence of the spirit of your intent. If you do something good, your spirit of intent is to do something good, you're going to go full circle and reap that goodness. If your intent is to do something bad, you're going to go full circle and pay the consequence. It's just a matter of time.
Now, knowing this information, of course, we're learning a lot of history that was never a part of our school's propaganda history class.
Right.
But what is it that you would want to say to the average American that would move us forward in this healing process, move us forward in this awareness of your diversity, of awareness of our own heritage?
Oh, just wake up.
Okay.
Just wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Just wake up and use your own wisdom. Use your own mind. Question everything.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Question everything.
Wonase, and I was talking the other day. I was talking to my son, and we was talking about different places now in the country, the Pacific, the areas of the Pacific where we have Hawaii. Hawaii is doing something right now because what happened is that the colonizers went to Hawaii and told the people that they could not speak. There's the entire language was taken away, and they told people, the kids, and even today when I used to work for the Tacoma School District, I remember that teachers and stuff would say to the Spanish kids that they are here, you don't speak Spanish, you have to speak English, and in Hawaii right now there's something going on that what they're doing is bringing back the dialects to the schools and teaching the dialects to the school to this
Yes.
generation, because that was taken away. They told you get punished if you speak your native language. And also this narrative too, that is you speak English, you could get better jobs too. And now they're starting to bring in and what is the I would say has to do with taking away and ripping away your culture, because that's one of the things that the colonizers did. Little by little, they took away the entire way you worship, and they throw this narrative around the world that if you don't worship God, your God or whatever God, the way we do it, then everything else is evil. So how this plan came to just make sure that you take away the cultures and you take away the all these customs that was passed on from a generation to generation, because they did it with the Africans too, so how do you bring those dialects? Because certain part of the United States are doing that, to bring the native dialect to the schools.
They did this with Roman Empire. That's what the Roman Empire did. They conquered people and took the country's inhabitants and spread them all over their empire. They did that in China. Well, not quite to that degree, but it's a mindset.
But taking away the way people worship, the way people eat, the way the native language, that also take away a sense of who you are. It takes away you really where you came from and your place in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a means of control.
Yes.
So, Wonase, one of the things that I was thinking also, I think we spoke about this Friday, it was Canada. They fined, I think, 150,000 bodies of kids because they also took, they separated the kids from the parents and they put them in these private schools. And now I believe that Canada wants to give into the indigenous community in Canada $3 billion of reparation. What do you think about United States doing that here with the Native community?
Oh, wow. From experience and from our history in dealing with the United States, it's going to take a long time. You know, like we're not going to immediately benefit. They're not just going to decide to throw some dollars at us and say we're gonna. This is for what our boarding school system has done to you. You know, it's we're not going to see a lot of things happen very soon, but they're going to try to make attempt to. But how do you forgive money can't replace life?
Yes.
And that's one thing our people have to deal with is the taking of our children and the killing of our children. How do you financially heal an emotional, mental, spiritual, physical event? You can't do it. They can't do it. They can throw all the money they want in the world to us. It's not going to heal what has happened. So again, we have to accept. Just accept it. Accept that this happened. So then we have to turn our mental and emotional to, so how are we going to use your dollars to help heal? What are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with it? You know, and I don't know. I don't know. It's a good thing for them to do because it makes it feel that it's kind of healing for them. But it doesn't do anything really to heal our emotional, mental, our spiritual and physical state of existence. Like, why was it so important for you to come to this continent and kill us? It was to control, to take, to have. It's very difficult to think about. I can't even imagine it right now. I'm working on it myself. I'm working on it on myself. How do we forgive what has been done? What does that mean? Yeah. It's like I said in our language, we never had to really talk about forgiveness because we were mindful from the very beginning of the day. From the very beginning of the day, the new day, Ampetu, this day, Ampetule, this day, we were mindful to set our path in prayer. How do I be a good person today? How do I help me to be a good person? What is it that I have within me that makes me a good person, that can offer something good to the world around me? So we didn't have to think about like forgiving because I'm going to go out there and I'm going to take from my neighbor. I'm going to steal his trees that he hasn't planted. I'm going to take them, put in my yard. So then now I have to think about the idea of forgiveness. And I don't know what that means because I didn't have that idea, that thought to go do something bad to somebody. It was always, what can we do today to heal the circle of life? Wichone womime, wichone womime wankake, the sacred circle of life. What can we do? So it's now that all this stuff is coming out and these bodies are being found, and then they've been finding our bodies, our people's bodies, since they came to this land. They've been putting our people's bodies into this land since they came here by assassination because they wanted what was here. Gold, now oil, now lithium, uranium. Mm-hmm. They wanted all the resources so that they could keep their power, their false sense of power, which is going to run out. But they can't overcome our spiritual power. our spiritual, not power, spiritual strength. Because when we use the word power, that puts our whole mindset into control. It changes the way we think about ourselves. Now, if we talk about power, our spiritual power, no, not our spiritual power, our spiritual strength. Because that brings it back into us individually, and it allows us to share what we have within us for the greater good. And when we connect, you and I heal ourselves. That's one. And we influence another to heal themselves. That's another. And they influence somebody else, and that's another. And then that's another. Until it becomes that every individual is healing and standing up for what is true. So that comes full circle. And that's what's happening today. By doing things like this, it's getting information out there, taking away some of the lies, because the veil of deception has been lifted. Now we're in this time of enlightenment, this time of awakening of the human existence.
Yeah.
When we had people get so with Godgo, Lila with Godgo, they got so crazy and threw us into this what we're going through now. But this veil of enlightenment, this veil of darkness has been lifted around 2014, 2016. And a great happening was when people came to Standing Rock. That was a time when people of the earth came and said, we want to do something about this. We don't want this to continue to happen. So that was one time when all the people of the world and this beautiful young lady named Kei, she was there, and she brought her spirit, and you could see from just by looking at her and how she stood there and how she I remember like first day seeing her in camp, and she was looking at all the food and stuff that was brought into camp, and we were trying to set up a kitchen, and we didn't have a kitchen. We're just out in the open. So people were trying to like, how do we make a kitchen here? And she was looking at all this stuff brought in, and then I was watching her, and then just like, and then she just got busy. She just got busy with what she was able to do, what her experience was. She, had restaurant experience with restaurant, running a restaurant. She just started organizing. She just started organizing, separating, organizing, and then people there started coming along and helping. So we have this now. Now, all this lies and deception is out in the open. So if you look at government now, people in government, they're not lying. They're not hiding. They're not willing to hide the person who's doing the wrong anymore. They're like, no, I don't want a part of that. So now people have to deal. Now all this stuff is being brought up on these government officials. And people are saying, no, I'm not going to stand and hide that anymore for you. You're going to have to deal with that yourself. See, that's what's happening, but it's not put out in the news so much as the bad things happening. So the news and the media controls what we see. Yes. All that badness that's happening. So now the people are concentrating on that, so these people can continue to undermine and take. But you and I, once we're awake, and if we're researching and we're searching for the truth of life, we're not going to be fooled by it. And then we're going to be willing, because of our spiritual, mental, emotional, physical strength. Not our power. because human beings tend to abuse power, that whole idea of power. But if they have the strength, the mental strength, the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, then they can come at these issues in a different way, in a more compassionate way, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't believe, I know. Because to use the word believe, L-I-E is in that word, believe. Be lie. So try not to use that like, oh, I believe I can do that. No, well, that doesn't mean you can. You just believe. It's a lie. I believe we can help you. No, you either know you can help somebody or you don't know you can help. Well, why don't you just say it that way? Like I don't know if I can help you, or I do know if I can help you. I don't. So I research a lot of language. Like I'm just on this. I don't know. It's me. But I want to be careful about choice, using certain words that we just throw out there today. Like America, I've always wondered, like, what does America mean? So what does America mean? And everybody says, oh, America. What does the word America mean? Oh, America. It was named after Amerigo Vespucci. That's what we're told in the history books. Well, then, what does Amerigo mean then? If America comes from Amerigo, what does Amerigo mean? But nobody says anything about it. Nobody says and explains. So we went on a research and we was like, finding what does America mean? So in that, this individual, he said 2 words, comes from, I think, Latin or something, an old language. 2 words, ame. Ame is a command to love. Rica, riches and wealth. So America, 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 a command to love, riches and wealth. And that's the American dream. So everybody comes here with that idea. I want to go to America.
That's a huge indictment. That's hard to hear, my soul, to hear that. But you're right.
Yes.
It is the spirit of America.
And I can't apologize for that, and I won't. It's just truth. If we can, why is it so hard to accept truth for the human being? To accept truth? Because we've been conditioned so long to just accept what is told to us. We don't do our own research. Like this, I like this because we are bringing up question. We're bringing up things that will make us think. I want people to think, like search, research, find the truth. Because if this isn't working for you, then you got to know that there's something else.
And Wonase, for me being Afro-Latina, America here, we had America in our schools in the Latin world. It was the whole continent. It wasn't just now here in the United States, this is America, and we will say, no, this is not America. This is part of the America continent, yes, that was divided into the North, the Central, and the South, So for us, United States, they took that word and use it, and I think it makes so much sense what you said. But for us, America was the entire continent, from the north all the way to the south, the entire continent. And one of the things that I see in the Spanish countries like Mexico, and here in Washington State, we have a big community of Mexicans. We see that there is a disconnect with the people that are running the country and the people that are on TV and media. compared to the people that are coming in here in the country. You can see the difference in the color skin. The people running most of these countries in Latin America are white. They're white from Europe, but the rest of the country are the natives. And you see that disconnect. And a lot of times I tell my Mexican friends, if you look at the TV and the people running your country, they look very different than you. And Mexico is called the Azteca country because Mexico, I think there was the concentrated of the lots of different native tribes in Mexico, and you can see in their features the food that they eat comes and they are carry that tradition of their food with the tortillas and all of that from the native the culture. So and Peru is, I think it's Peru. Yes, Peru is one of the countries that got the first native president in Peru, and the United States and the rest of the world worked so hard to remove this man. His name is Evo Morales, the first indigenous president in the entire Latin America, and they worked so hard to get him out of it. They say he was a communist, he was a socialist, because he was working for this indigenous country too. This is a very heavy indigenous country.
You know, I was just thinking as about the term America, and realized it probably Christopher Columbus that coined the term America, and that encapsulates his whole purpose for finding this land, because he was sent to find riches in Europe, and this became his land of opportunity to make the monarchs rich in Europe. That makes total sense.
For sure. In the 1400s, 1490s, the papal bull was the Vatican. See, now this is what's getting crazy, is because now you have a religion that rises to power, and takes over the governance of the earth,
the world. Yes,
and so the papal bulls of the 1490s were issued and said monarchs and kings of established countries can go around the earth, discover, and take and control all these native lands that they were unknown to them at that time. And so they were given this papal bull, this directive: go and find these lands, take all the riches and the resources, bring them back to here so we can use them. If the people resist, imprison them or kill them, doesn't matter, as long as we start control. So it is what it is nowadays, but now, like I say, everything comes full circle. So, and in our prophecies, our native prophecies, there are prophecies that said we would see the rise and fall of America as a nation. We would see the rise and fall of America because it's going to destroy itself by its own greed and need for power. Not strength to do good and heal, but its own craziness. And you see it. And go ahead.
Coming from the Christian heritage, I understand this because, back in Constantine tried to fight the Christians and try to destroy them, and when he couldn't, he brought them in and converted them into a political power.
Yes.
And basically destroyed Christianity when he did that.
Yes.
And Christianity has tried to recover its early years since then. But I forgot what my point was.
Well, and I was thinking about religion. Religion, religion is being a tool. I mean, today in Africa, there is a raise up of the Christianity in Africa. They're converting more and more people into Christianity. And I don't think people realize that it's again to control, it's again to take away your culture, to strip away your real identity. When you do that, and they came into these different countries and continent, and the missionaries, and they completely changed the entire country.
Yes.
And with the saying about this is better, what you're doing is not good. I think God, and I said God because I believe in God, that he gave us this free will. This free will.
Yes.
As human beings, and for someone to decide that everything and everybody should worship the same God, the way we worship, is crazy. It's just crazy to me. You're taking away a human right by taking away the free will.
Yes.
And when you throw that into the universe and say, is this or is you don't do it this way, then you're evil. It's just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And that's why church and state governments came into existence, is because the church needed the power that nations had militarily and financially to spread this Christian concept around the world. They couldn't do it by themselves, because a missionary can come into somebody's country and you can do away with the missionary, craziness. But so they came with their military might. They had the backing of the nations, the established nations, financially and militarily. They brought their soldiers. When Christopher Columbus landed on...
Columsi is a good name.
And he landed on this, what they now call South America or Central America, wherever he landed. And he brought soldiers with him. He brought people that weren't good people. Yeah. Because the nation said, well, we're not going to send our finest soldiers and our finest scholars and our finest people over there because we don't know what's there. Yeah. We'll release people from prison. We'll release the rapists. We'll release the thieves. And you take them and they'll help you. They'll manage your ship. They'll man your ship. And then you get there and you'll see what happens. You'll see what the people are, if there's people there. See what's there, what that we need. And so they came and then they planted this big sword that had what looked like a cross. It's a big sword, tall sword with the handlebars across. They planted that in the dirt and they said, well, by this we now claim this land, which is really crazy. How does people, by just doing something like picking up dust and sprinkling it, by this we claim this land. This is now the land of Spain. This is now the land of Italy, Portugal, whatever dominant country is. That has no meaning to it at all. But there was people in the way, my people, our people. And when when the young lady was talking about the Azteca and the Mayans, their influence comes all the way up into Western United States of America. We're now finding Mayan and Aztec items and structure. But we were told, no, they only down there in South America, Central America. That's the only place. And then they all died out. They all died out. They all died, so it went extinct. But no, they didn't. Their influence is in the people of the North and the people in the South. They went to take and protect themselves. So Cahokia in the United States of America, there's a thing now that they talk about it called Cahokia in Missouri, in that area down there in those states. They're called the mound builders. So they had this giant, great civilization. They existed. So now the archaeologists, scientists, they said, well, they disappeared. They went extinct. They disappeared. But we have mound builders that live right north of us called Mandan. They're mound builders. They live in the mounds they build, the earth lodges. So those people, they didn't just die out. They migrated up this way to get away from whatever was trying to destroy their existence there. They went. So we still have people that are so rooted way back in time that are still here, but like I say, the governments that conquer and control, they don't allow this education to come out.
And when I say, we don't have a lot of time, but I was thinking, I'm from Panama, and I see the same. It was done everywhere, because we have in Panama, we have the Incas, and the Incas, they are put in this island. They were put in this part of the country that they give them this territory and said, this is yours, even though they were here first. And they live in these islands. And then the rest of us are everywhere. Now, when I went back home, I saw more of the Incas. And they still wear the native clothes. They still wear all their garments. They're more incorporated into the rest of the country, and they had to sit in the table of the government to really demand that they needed more into the government part. So now I go places and I see them more in places working. But it's so funny that the same thing was repeated everywhere. They took their land and then they give them, according to them, the worst part of the land, and you can recreate whatever your culture and stuff, but you stay over there.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to bring the people of the earth together again. We have I was trying to find, there is a statement in our language that said, and the people of the people will come back together again. So that tells me that we were all working together at one time on this continent because we knew each other. And this story that's coming out about our people coming back to our country, our land here, that the scientists and archaeologists are now finding and discovering, that tells that the story that we have about our people walking clear around the earth, from the Black Hills, going Central South America, what is now known as Central and South America, across Antarctica, up into Africa, up into Europe, across Asia, and then coming back down to the Black Hills. Now that's coming out. And that's why years ago when I worked for this United Tribes Technical College, we had a culture culture. We had a program, people. So then we went out and we said, we need our people, Lakota people, our native people, to understand that we're not the only native people on this earth.
Mhm.
So we have, at United Tribes Technical College, there was an annual Wachipi na Oshkata, what they call powwow nowadays.
Mhm.
And so it was international powwow, they called it. So people from all over the world come, tourists take pictures and dancers dance. But we wanted our people to understand that we weren't the only native people on this on this earth. So we went and to other countries and nations sent and inquired about. So we brought people, the black people from Africa. What is your culture? Would you come and come and share your culture, your dance, your songs with our people, so they understand that there's native black people in Africa, which is now called Africa, that still exist and live their culture and their ways. And then we went to the east, or went down to and brought Aztecs and Mayan descendants to teach. And people from Japan came and shared their culture and dance. And from the west, the yellow, or from the east, the yellow. And then so our people said, well, there's no native white people. Because white people are from Europe and they're the conquerors and they're the ones that changed all our lives. There's no native white people. So we looked at the medicine wheel. The medicine wheels had black, red, yellow, white. So we told them, yes, there are native white people. We just got to find them so they can come and teach us what they went through. Because they went through the same thing all of us have went through. Yeah. Domination, change of our life, change of our way of life. So we went and searched in Norway, Sweden, Denmark. We found the Sami people. They are travelers just like us. They live with the reindeer. And so they migrate with the reindeer. They move their herds and they live with the land. But their governments that were established there, like they said, they oppressed them. They built dams. They flooded their lands, their way of life. And they took all their stuff away. Because I sang with a drum group. And so we were having a break, and then there was this man. He was standing there. He had a camera, and he was standing there around our drum group. And he said, "Would it be okay for me to take a picture of your drum?" And he's a white-looking guy, a tourist. I think a tourist. But he said, "Could I take a picture of your drum?" And I said, well, you have to ask the drum keeper. If he says yes, then yes, you can take a picture. So he asked the drum keeper, and the drum said, yeah, okay, sure. So he took a picture of the drum, and he said, I come from Sweden, Norway, Denmark area, and our governments, I'm a Sami. Our governments took all our drums, took all our items, our living things we use in our life, and they locked them away. And they said, we can no longer use those, that we have to live the Swedish way. We have to live the Norway way. We have to live the Danish way. So they went through this oppression just like we did. Mm-hmm. And that connected us. Like, I know what you mean. But now we're allowed to use our drums, because the drums they took away from us, we didn't let that stop us. We built our own drums again, and we use them. So it's the empowerment of the native nations. We need to have this healing within ourselves individually, so that we can bring out this truth of our existence.
You know, our time is over, but this was so good. It was so good. I mean, I could just sit here and listen to this the whole day. It's so good. You guys, thank you. Thank you for sitting here with me. I hope it's not the last time that we sit. I would love to have you guys back in the show. I would say, Teacher Wonase, you teach us so much today. We learned so much today. I learned so much. My heart is full with knowledge. You know, it's full with knowledge. Is just really, really. I'm going feeling so good about stuff today. You know, so I want to thank Steve, and I want to thank Kei, and I want to thank. How do you say teacher in Lakota?
Wonshpe.
Wonshpe?
Yeah, Wonshpe, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Wonshpe, yeah. When you put the YA on the end, that gives shkan, like motion. So Wonshpe is to learn, to teach, and then Wonshpe, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Pastor Dennis. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful, beautiful day. And I have not been in Dakota. I've been in Jersey, but not Dakota. The Dakotas. I've not been in that part of the country, but I would love to. So I see you guys. I thank you for sitting with me, Siembra. Thank everybody. Have to watch this show. This show was enlightening. It was fulfillment. I just feel so good about just hearing the story of all of us, you know, and the icing in the cake was that, you know, when we think of white people, we think that they are not native, but this is good. This is really good because we all have the same experience, whether we want to think or not, and we want the same things. So thank you. You guys have a nice day, beautiful day, and thank you for being in my show, Siembra. Bye.
Bless you all. Thank you. Thanks, audience, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Yazmin. Thank you, Dennis.